During the third pull or the pull under of the snatch or the clean, you may see a lifter's feet come up off the platform and you'll hear an audible slap of the feet coming back down on the platform. You may also see a lifter just shuffle their feet out to the side and not really hear any audible slap of the feet. Now, in the former version, you'll primarily see amongst Russian lifters or Soviet style lifting, but that style of picking up the feet and bring them down fast is seen throughout the world. The latter of the two, where the feet just shuffle out to the sides, you're going to primarily see in China. And for the most part, across the entire weightlifting team, you will see the feet shuffle out to the side and you won't really hear that loud, violent slap against the platform. So which one is better, the loud slapping feet or the quiet shuffling feet? Well, before we get into which one's better or which one you should do, let's just talk about why the feet come off the platform in the first place. So many times you'll hear a coach use the cue jump. And it's important to understand that this jump cue is so that the lifter or the beginner or the youth lifter can figure out how to utilize their leg to put power into the barbell. Oftentimes we see weight on the floor, we think we're pulling this weight. What we want to do as coaches is get the lifter or the beginner to use their leg to drive the bar vertically. Now, the jump cue is an effective cue, but sometimes it can be misinterpreted. In actuality, the feet don't move because the lifter is jumping. The feet move because the lifter is dropping. And dropping as fast as you can would require you to move your feet. It's simple physics, really. You just take out the supports, which would be the feet, and the center mass, or whatever's balancing on those supports, is gonna fall. In an article written by Stephen Powell, he describes the Russian term podriv. This means to thrust or extend the legs while pulling. There is no direct translatable term to English, so the univocal translation would be to jump. And the reason why we discern the two differences between podriv and jump is because the jump may lead to the lifter spending too much time in extension or not focusing enough of their mental acuity on the pull under, a phase that both the Russians and the Chinese value tremendously. In arguably one of the most important weightlifting books out there right now, Laputin and Oleshko's Managing the Training of Weightlifters, it is said that the final acceleration phase of the barbell, where the knees come forward and they extend, is right around 1/10 of a second. What you'll notice is in a jump, the time it takes for the knees to extend is very similar to the time it takes for the knees to extend in a pull. However, following the pull, there's the pull under, and following the jump, well, there really isn't anything after it. Understanding that term podriv and how it differs from a jump and how the pull differs from a jump can really help us tap into the early Soviet school of thought. Looking back on the statistic that extension occurs in 1/10 of a second, we need to understand that flexion and the redirection of the hips also needs to occur with that same intensity level. This is easy to say, but how can it be done? Amongst many coaches, the simple answer would be loud feet. If you're teaching a youth lifter or a beginner lifter, it's hard to say, hey, make sure that between your second and third pull that you're violently dropping underneath the bar fast, right? It becomes a little bit convoluted. So a simple cue is just that I want to hear your feet slap the platform after extension. And oftentimes you'll see Russian coaches or international coaches, they'll do a sort of a rhythmic clapping, like a 1-2, and that's to signify the contact of the barbell either on the hips or the high thighs, and then immediately following the feet securing themselves to the platform. So as a very basic teaching tool, the loud feet, it can be very effective. It signifies aggression getting underneath the barbell. The soft feet, on the other hand, used by the Chinese, it doesn't mean that they're not putting their focus on that pull under phase. It's just that their version of accomplishing this phase manifests itself in a pretty much an opposite way. Basically, by shuffling the feet out, it can maximize the time that the athlete can forcefully put tension back into the bar. And they're able to do this at a much more progressive manner rather than that quick, violent loading of the barbell in the Russian school of thought. Another point that can be made with the soft shuffling feet and the ability to put pressure back into the bar progressively rather than in one violent catch is the longevity of the joints and the longevity of the lifter's performance. And I think a true testament to this is Xiaojun of China. He was able to set another world record in the snatch at Rio as a 32-year-old. You know, this is something that not many people are talking about, the fact that the progressive loading of the quads and the hamstrings and the glutes as the lifter catches the bar might be more favorable to longevity, and the violent catching of the barbell that may wear out the knees and the hips and other joints in play. What I can say is that the Chinese seem to be a lot more thorough on their strength work and their specific positional strength work. It seems as though the bar is lifted in a much more controlled fashion to get into positions. Now, it may not be as explosive, or it may be as explosive, but what it looks like to me is that positional strength is much more important than the actual explosive power. Now, this is not to say that the Chinese don't have explosive power. That would be ridiculous of me to say, but it seems as though they focus a lot more on that positional strength, getting the bar where they need it to be, and then safely, progressively catching the barbell. So if we look at disadvantages and advantages in either style of pull, well, right away you can see that the advantage of picking up the feet and putting them down violently, that may allow you to get to your squat position or your catch position a lot faster. However, the issue with that becomes the sort of that, like we were talking about before, you don't have that progressive control of the barbell as it's loading on top of you. It all kind of loads onto you at one time. So on the opposite side of that, the advantage of shuffling the feet, like the Chinese weightlifting team, is that you do have that controlled reloading phase. Now, this can lead to a longer lifting career, and it can lead to healthier joints over time. Now, that's something that I have not seen proven, but again, I like to think of that Xiaojun example. So a possibility of a disadvantage with the Chinese style pull and shuffle of the feet is that it becomes a little bit harder to drop as violently or as fast. Now, again, this isn't the case in a lot of Chinese elite, and if you've been training one way, you're probably going to be good enough at that way. If you've been training the other way, you're probably going to be good enough at that way. My solution is to practice both, and to practice both with drilling. So in one of my videos, I definitely suggest you check it out. I talk about the tall series of lifting, and that basically takes away the pull and the extension of the lift and has you focus on the pull under and the arm mechanics and the loud, violent feet. And that's going to be much more similar to the Soviet school of thought. Now again, these are just drills, but it could be something that you're missing in your snatch or clean. And then in my last video talking about staying over the barbell, I mentioned a really good drill that I love to use, and that is the no foot, no hook. And when performing that drill, you'll notice the control that you need in the pull and the accuracy that you need with the feet definitely mirrors that of a Chinese lifter or someone who shuffles their feet out. All in all, what happens when you lift maximally with your feet is just going to happen. It really comes down to you and your coach and the issues that he or she sees within your pull or your catch or your mechanics or your positional strength, all of these things. So if you have issues accomplishing certain things in the snatch and the clean and jerk, make sure that you assess them, that you drill them, you strengthen those problem areas, and you work to bettering your technique so that you can go to maximal weights and eventually get PRs. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, if you want to get better at snatching and clean and jerking, hopefully I can help you out. Click that subscribe button, like button, all of the cool buttons that you can click for this channel. It helps tremendously. Thank you. Bye.